Thursday, July 3rd. Welcome back to Damon Bruce Plus, and from that guy right there. I love seeing that guy right there. Thursdays have become one of my favorite days of the week. Thinking out loud, Sam Batesh. Oh, my goodness. When not with Andrew Siciliano, he's right here on a Thursday. Good to see you, pal.
It is so exciting. And Damon, I got to tell you, we find such amazing, incredible things to talk about. I mean, first of all, outside of sports, we have an endless amount of things to choose. But sports gives us gifts, even when you think it's not happening because it's the middle of the summer. You and I have a way of digging into things and finding what matters and getting fired up when usually it's the time of the year when everyone's just calm. Like, this is the chill time of the year, right? Everyone's supposed to just calm. Football's not here. But no, you and I find a way to get in there. I love it.
These are two guys who have done an awful lot of dead period radio in their lives. So a lot of people go running away from the month of July. Not Sammy and I. We go running right into it, and it is great to have everyone here. Hit like and subscribe across both channels, if you would, please. As always, brought to you by Ike's Sandwiches. And let me just tell you right now, if you are an Ike's Rewards member, you're already sitting in beautiful position because he's put $4 into your account today to spend at Ike's. I don't know what you're doing for the 4th of July, but a nice Sando going down on the 4th of July. You know, you're going to be out and about. Get 2 Sandos at lunch, put 1 in the fridge for dinner. You're going to be happy that you did it. He is giving away $4. If you sign up today, you can still get that $4 in your membership rewards program. Love rewards program. My man Ike, 4th of July, delicious stuff. And don't forget, everyone could use a little cocktail on the 4th of July, too, and get yourself to the Dubliner West portal. My boys, Kenny and John, are ready to say hello. Come on in. Watch a Giants game here. Watch a Valkyries game here. Watch preseason football here. Come on with your friends. Order some Ikes, have it delivered here, and hang out all day long at the Dubliner West portal. My guys, Sammy, what are you doing for the 4th of July?
Well, let me say a couple things. First of all, the thumbnail tells you that we're going to be talking about quarterbacks. And trust me, everybody, overrated, underrated, overpaid, underpaid. If you want to take a crack at a quarterback, if you want to go way out into left field and talk about quarterbacks, trust me, this is what we're going to be doing today. Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam is the YouTube page where Andrew Siciliano and we have our podcast that you can catch on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, etc. And of course, we are here at Bruce Plus, at Damon Bruce Plus, which is an outstanding page as well. Thank you for finding us. And 4th of July, I got to tell you, based on what you said about Ike's. So Marina Del Rey is where we will be tomorrow. Now, Allie, my wife, is a 4th of July baby. Okay, so she is birthday 4th of July, which is really interesting.
Happy birthday, Allie.
Thank you very much for that,
All-American
Damon.
girl.
All-American 4th of July girl. We are going to her friend's house, Marina Del Rey. Ridiculous fireworks. It's going to be awesome. But guess what? The best part about it is, guess what's in Marina Del Rey? We got an Ike's in Marina Del Rey. And on the text chain right now with all the friends that she's got lined up, people were asking, hey, what should we eat tomorrow? What should we get? I said, stop everything, everybody. I threw in the link for the Ike's sandwiches. Everyone flipped out. Yes, we're doing Ike's. Ike's delivery to the sand is happening tomorrow, 4th of July. We are lighting fireworks with Ike's. I cannot wait. I'll post a photo. I'll hit you. I'll hit Ike's. But definitely that Damon Bruce Plus sandwich, that is actually my friend Drew, his son. That's his favorite sandwich. Without even ever knowing that we were doing this, he loved that sandwich, and I'll be crushing that tomorrow.
If you like if I can steal from Colin Cowherd, if you like a meat sandwich, it's kind of a sandwich for you. There's no doubt about that. Make sure you've liked and subscribed to both pages, if you would, please. And it is wonderful to have you here as always. And just let's hop into the fact that football is going to be here in less than a month. We are playing preseason football at the end of this month. It's Detroit, and somebody's the opener. I forget who the preseason opener is, but it is coming up quickly. Training camp will be open quickly. We will have rookies, then veterans, then mandatory full roster reports all happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And as always, your chances to be whatever you think you're going to be in the NFL are directly tied to who's your coach, who's your quarterback. And if I can work in the parlance of our times, man, who's got the vibes? I think it's called the Riz. Somebody asked me, what is the Riz? I had to think about it. I'm like, sounds like it's charisma. Am I right about that?
Yes, the Riz.
Okay, good. Right. Well, when it comes to quarterbacking vibes, there are guys who are at the very top who it feels like if they showed up today without teammates, if they showed up today without a defense, they still might go ahead and beat you this afternoon. These are the rare, absolute alpha dogs of the modern quarterbacking group that we look around in right now. I've got three that's really obvious. One who is in the conversation, could fall out because it's a sophomore year, and then one dude who maybe, and then another who no one would make the argument for him, but I will.
I love this.
The obvious. Your best vibe quarterbacks, Sammy, easily. Burrow, Mahomes, and Allen.
I love that.
The three of them are sitting far enough up on a pedestal that, even though Mahomes just got beat by Jalen Hurts ain't on that pedestal. Not yet.
No.
I think it's those three guys more than anyone. And only because he's a little bit of a cause celeb. How about Jaden Daniels?
I want to explain this a little bit. All right, so overrated, underrated. I at least want to tip the cap to a friend of mine at CBS Sports who put together a list over there. So check it out at cbssports.com. Cody Benjamin does a great job. He really made his name on the Patriots dynasty. He covered them, and so obviously everyone wanted to talk to Cody, and he's got a great national name at CBS Sports. He put together an awesome list of the most overrated and underrated quarterbacks according to him. Now, I wanted to look at this with Damon and dissect it and come up with our own list, and that's what we've done. And so here is what Cody had. Cody's got overrated, and this is sort of, I think this is heading into 2025. It's kind of obviously got a nod to 2024, but it's sort of heading into 2025. These are the overrated quarterbacks in the league. He's got Dak at the top of his list for overrated, Tua at number 2, and Kyler at number 3, which is really interesting. But then there's the underrated. I guess we should show that because we're sort of, I think you and I are talking right now underrated. We're talking great vibes. You want an underrated quarterback, not an overrated quarterback, obviously. And the underrated guys, according to Cody, are Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts, top of the list. Brock Purdy, Damon and I are going to have a thing or two to say about Brock Purdy. By the way, we are part of the Brock Purdy contract. I mean, I celebrated that day like it was you and me getting $50 billion, right? We wanted it, he got it, and it came in beautifully.
Hey, I'm just saying there should be a Toyota in each of our driveways soon enough.
That's it. Just throwing it out there, please. Whoever wants to let us know in the Brock Purdy camp, we helped make that deal happen. And then Bo Nix is coming in at number 3 for underrated. But you just said
29 touchdowns for Bo Nix last year. I would, if you would have told me right now, like put a gun to my head, how many touchdowns did Bo Nix had? I wouldn't have spit out 29.
Not at all.
Better than I thought.
He was better than you thought in the game. If you want to go back and appreciate Bo Nix, how about this? I'm going to tell you to go watch a loss of his. It was in overtime, but the Bengals-Broncos game last season, which at the time was essentially a playoff game for the Bengals because for them to stay alive, they needed to win that game. It was Bengals-Broncos. Bo Nix tied that game and sent it to overtime with one of the greatest passes you will ever see, and certainly from a rookie. And if not for Jaden Daniels last year, it would have been the greatest pass that a rookie made. But Bo Nix tied that game with an unbelievable falling behind backwards, getting pulled down, throw into the end zone that you just do not see. It was awesome. And on that particular day, in that moment, you thought maybe he's better than Burrow. Burrow won the game in overtime, but what a special play that was. So Bo Nix, yes, better than either one of us thought. But go for, again, your list. So we're going to say underrated. Underrated is good vibes, right? Like that's where you want your quarterback in an underrated category.
But at the same time, there are some guys who are so established that, public opinion does not sway. That dude's a winner. That dude's a leader. That dude wins shit. Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, and Daniels, in the meantime, he could fall off of this faster than the other three. It's his sophomore year. We're about to find out. Can I give you a sneaky, might deserve to be on this list name?
I would love to because I've got a couple. I think you and I are going to agree on this, but give me one.
Baker Mayfield.
Thank you. So it's so funny. I was going to send you my names last night, and then I said, wait, it's way more fun if Damon and I just kind of reveal with each other as we go instead of building up the argument before we get on here. Thank you for including Baker Mayfield. So my list, I'll just give you real quick. And if we're going to go 4, I can do that. And Baker's certainly on it. My underrated number 1, by the way, top of the list, circle him for sure. You know the most underrated quarterback in this league is? Patrick Mahomes. It's Mahomes. Mahomes. Again, we've said, okay, when you look at the top paid quarterbacks, he's not at number 1. You and I looked at the top quarterbacks. Multiple PFF had a list out. Fox Sports had a list out of the best quarterbacks heading into 2020. And Mahomes wasn't number 1 on either of those, and you and I were laughing the entire time. If you really pulled every GM into a dark room by himself and said, who do you want as your quarterback? They would all whisper Patrick Mahomes. Then they would go out in front of a microphone and tell you that the guy they have under contract is the guy that they want. But if you pulled them aside, they would all whisper to you, we want Patrick Mahomes. He is by far the most underrated quarterback because he is the most feared, period.
Do you remember Bill Simmons used to do a list? It was called like the Untradeable List, and who would you trade for? And LeBron for years was at that. There is no one in the league that you would trade LeBron James for. I think that Patrick Mahomes still lives in that house. There's no one in the league that you would flip to improve yourself because you just traded Patrick Mahomes for this guy. You could say Joe Burrow's a little bit younger. The guy has proven himself an absolute warrior without any protection around him. And Burrow is special, man. I saw Warren Sharp release some numbers on Burrow about how he's got the least amount of time and he's the most accurate passer out there. And it was really impressive just to look at the list. The year that he was in the Super Bowl and lost that Super Bowl, I believe he was the most sacked quarterback in the league also, including what happened in that Super Bowl where Donald did get the best of him. But that is impressive. Talk about doing it without help. That's Burrow. And of course, they signed his help this year, so we'll see what happens. But I'm with you on Burrow being that guy. But I just wanted to say for you and I, Mahomes is the most underrated guy because until everyone in this chat agrees that that's the greatest quarterback in this league, then we're going to say he's underrated. And you'd have to go back in history to choose a quarterback worth trading for, right? You'd have to say, you'd say 2008 Tom Brady, maybe, for Mahomes. That's it, right? You'd have to choose a season, the most special season for the most special guy in history to top Mahomes. Give me Joe Montana 5 minutes after he shook Huey Lewis's hand, and it was 1984, and sports was coming out of every freaking speaker in America.
That's it. That's it. You can't take a guy. There's not a guy in the league today that you would take. And even when Burrow was quote unquote, beating Mahomes and they were calling it Burrowhead instead of Arrowhead. I mean, that was a cute moment in time. And of course it exists, but I'm sorry. Even in Cincinnati, if you ask them, who do you want at quarterback? They would take Mahomes. That's the guy.
That's the guy. So Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, maybe Daniels. We both like Baker on this list. Can I give you my don't sleep on them? They might be able to join this list quickly.
Please.
Jalen Hurts.
It's good. Okay, I like it. I like it.
We want to talk about the tush push and Saquon Barkley. Dude, Jalen Hurts was right in the middle of every good thing that has happened to the Eagles since he's been drafted. This guy is a real player. What you might say he lacks in whatever, this guy makes up for in quiet leadership, saying the right thing, doing the right thing. The Eagles march to the drum beat he lays down. You got to have Hurts, your defending Super Bowl champion, on the list. I got Brock Purdy on the list. He's the maybe not as strong as you want, but silent type. He is the doesn't say much, doesn't draw much attention, good soldier, gets it done. Vegas, by the way, loves Brock Purdy to be an elite quarterback. When you look at his totals, his passing totals, where he lists, this guy is well regarded outside of San Francisco more than he is sometimes by some fans in San Francisco.
So I want to speak about Purdy, and we're going to go down this rabbit hole, so we'll save some of it. But Purdy is, to me, right under Mahomes as underrated. Now, it's tougher to say now that he's making $50 million, but when you still think about it, because most people aren't going to pull Brock Purdy's name out when you talk about underrated, or frankly, when you talk about best quarterbacks in this league, Brock Purdy, when you consider where he was 2 seasons ago in that Super Bowl with a lead in overtime, what he did, my cousin was holding an MVP ticket with Brock Purdy's name on it that season. And until that Christmas game against the Ravens, where yes, Lamar basically won the MVP that day instead of Purdy. And I'll admit he was not very good in that game. Fine. But Purdy, up until that game, was the MVP of the league. He was the MVP of the league, and he is Mr. Irrelevant. If you talk about underrated, I think it's important to go back to the draft, because really, what does underrated mean? That means that people have been doubting you. Brock Purdy was the last pick of the draft. He nearly was Mr. Irrelevant quarterback of a Super Bowl champion. I'm sorry, but if he's been in 2 NFC championship games, he is Mr. Irrelevant. Do you understand that? Ryan Suckup, I believe, is the only Mr. Irrelevant to win a Super Bowl. He's the kicker on the Bucs with Brady from 2020, okay? We're talking about the quarterback of the 49ers is Mr. Irrelevant, and he's making $50 million. That's the most underrated guy ever. next to Mahomes, which, like I said, I'm just putting on the top of basically any list that involves quarterbacks.
When you're starting a Super Bowl, yet your salary doesn't even count towards the salary cap, there's some good value there. There's no doubt. Let me on the don't sleep list, even though he's won multiple MVPs, he hasn't won enough playoff games to get himself off of it. But Lamar Jackson is a never sleep on that guy level of talent. He can win a game by himself. I got Herbert on this list. I have CJ Stroud on this tier. And you know who might be on this tier as well, especially if you pair him with a competent head coach, which has happened again, Geno Smith.
Wow. Okay, so you've gone off. To me, you've gone a step maybe too far with Geno, but I like it because a guy I'm going to slot in, I have a Bay Area guy that, frankly, got slapped in the face hard in L.A., but Jared Goff. I just want to explain something about Goff, okay? So sports has you and I talk about this all the time. Sports has a great way of ending arguments because there are wins and losses and there are numbers, right? When it comes down, the world is defined by math. People that used to be nerds are now billionaires. That's just, you want nerds in your life, and nerds basically run football departments now because the numbers win out every single time. Here's a number on Goff. Goff gets traded after taking the Rams to a Super Bowl that they lost to the Patriots. He gets traded for Stafford. Stafford comes in that season and wins the Super Bowl, right? So theoretically, Stafford does something Goff cannot. And of course, delivering a championship is the end of any argument. Let me repeat that. Don't give me COVID champion. Don't give me any caveats to a championship. A championship is so fucking hard and involves so many things outside of your control. It's unbelievable. If you win one, that's it. That's the end of the argument. That was the right move by the Rams, and that's the end of the argument, of course. But I want to remind everyone, yes, Stafford did something that Goff did not do for the Rams. He won that Super Bowl. Goff had lost it. Do you know what Matt Stafford never did with the Lions? He never won a fucking playoff game. Not one. And Goff had this team with the lead in the NFC Championship in San Francisco, and then, of course, has followed it up with playoff wins outside of that. Jared Goff is...
You have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Dan Campbell, thank you. But it's Campbell and Goff, and we'll find out how much Ben Johnson had to do with that, but it's Campbell and Goff that have redefined what this organization is. Matthew Stafford was always the little engine that could, Matthew Stafford deserves some MVP attention in Detroit because if you really look at the numbers, he's won. No one gave a shit because they didn't win enough games. It never mattered. It did not matter. Detroit was always great. Look at Calvin Johnson, what he's doing. Great. Look at what Stafford's doing. It didn't matter. When it really came down to it, they could never beat Rodgers. They could never beat Green Bay consistently. That team was fairly, in the NFC pantheon, irrelevant. And with Goff, they are, look at Las Vegas, an NFC contender to represent that conference in the Super Bowl. So Jared Goff has also done something that Stafford could not do in Detroit.
I also have Goff right after Geno.
Nice.
I really do. He's on that it's easy to talk about football for a long time and not even bring him up, but he's pretty damn good. He's out there. There is absolutely no doubt that if given the opportunity to join the don't sleep on it list, Shedeur Sanders would love to find himself on this list. If he can get his foot off the gas pedal and get to work and come in and start playing and actually playing well for the Browns somewhere around, I don't know, week 5, week 6, however long they let, there's going to be Flacco is going to be the sacrificial lamb there for a little while.
Someone asked me the other day, what's the quarterback room in Cleveland? Who is it? They just kind of forgot. And it rolled off my tongue because it is so relevant, but it is interesting. Remember, the Browns are looking at Kenny Pickett. They traded from the Eagles. They got him instead of Dorian Thompson Robinson now. So you got Kenny Pickett, you got Flacco, they drafted Dylan Gabriel, and of course they drafted Shedeur Sanders. I mean, that is a fascinating room right now, and I don't think there's really nothing that has separated any of it right now.
I don't think Kenny Pickett plays a snap. I don't think Gabriel plays a snap. I think it's going to go Flacco to Shedeur.
Amazing. Well, by the way, so we talked about underrated and we can still dissect, but I want to talk about overrated because you just said the name. Since we're talking about draft and how that can affect what we think about underrated or overrated, was there 2 months ago a more overrated quarterback when you look at where he was projected to be drafted and where he was drafted than Shedeur Sanders? Shedeur Sanders might be the most overrated quarterback that we ever have seen. And I'm just talking about what the rating was and what ended up happening. Think about it. He was rated as a first rounder and was drafted in the 5th round by a team that took another quarterback in that draft ahead of him. That is wildly and easily the most overrated quarterback we've ever seen coming out of a draft. This isn't Brady Quinn and Aaron Rodgers showing shots of him through day one or through the beginning of day one to then be drafted at the end of day one.
Oh, he slipped to 18th. How embarrassing.
This is a quarterback who got crank called between supposed to be drafted on one day, crank called the second day, and drafted the third day. It is easily the most overrated that a quarterback has been. Now, this is no knock on Shedeur Sanders. I'm just talking about what the word overrated means. Am I right, Damon? Have we ever seen, has the industry ever been more incorrect? You and I have done this a long time. Mock drafts are never wildly irresponsible when it comes to quarterback like this.
Missed that guy by 6 rounds.
It's never happened. It's never happened like that. That was unbelievable. We will never. I just want everyone to appreciate how incredible that story was. And if anything comes from Shedeur Sanders, remember he has overcome that, because that is a kick in the nuts that none of us can understand. To sit through 2 days of that,
it might be the single best thing that could have possibly happened to him. I've heard some pretty positive stories about, other than him driving to or from practice where he needs to slow down.
Well, he's trying to get there on time, right? I mean,
hey, punctuality matters. But look, I think he's going to be a decent player. I really do. I'm not ready to just totally write him off. We'll see. He's probably, again, as a rookie we're not going to see to the middle of the year. He doesn't even belong on this list right now. But again, you can't have the word vibe without talking about his being on or off. There's no doubt about it. Let's go to worst vibes, and then we'll go to no vibes.
Okay, I like it. Give it to me.
The worst vibes, I think it's Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers starts and ends the list almost with the worst vibes around a quarterback. There's always something that feels like it's about to pop off with him. An awful lot of offense. I don't know if it's going to be part of it. I can't pick the week, but I do know that he will stab a knife in Mike Tomlinson the very first chance he thinks it's going to benefit him to do it. I don't trust him. I think that a lot of people feel this way. I think his teammates feel this way. I don't know, man. Aaron Rodgers is his own worst enemy more than he is his own best friend, and I am fading him having one last great year more than I was fading Brett Favre at the end of it, to be honest with you.
Well, and maybe you bring up Favre, and that's really what it's going to take. I want us to try to go back in our minds to remember what you thought about Brett Favre coming out of the Jets campaign. All right, his career was done. Favre retired, then unretired to become a Jet. Okay, so it was ending nicely as a lifetime Packer, and that was all. He then unretires, and Rodgers says, "Wait a second, I thought this was my job." And then the Packers get rid of him essentially to appease Rodgers so that he can take the reins from Favre. Favre goes to New York and does nothing but send photos of himself. And that's the only thing that we have of his chapter in New York. It was ugly.
Nice pass.
Nice pass. Then he goes to Minnesota, and we're not necessarily thinking that's going to be something incredible. And he takes them to the NFC Championship with one of the greatest radio calls of all time when the Saints do beat the Vikings in that game to go on to the Super Bowl. This ain't Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl. But Favre was unbelievable. You'd have to really tell yourself that that's possible with Rodgers now, and you're saying there's nothing on the vibes that tell us right now that Rodgers is poised for that kind of a season in Pittsburgh.
I can't wait till he and DK Metcalf are grabbing each other by the face mask and yelling at each other and not hugging each other on the sideline like it. I bet it goes wrong. I'm betting against it more than I'm betting on it. That's for sure. Speaking of betting against it, Sam Darnold in Seattle. It's going to crash and burn. I just do not think that is going to work out. And I think that the vibes around Tua might officially undo him in Miami this year. Again, a guy who has produced statistically, but I think has played himself into a position of frailty that leaves everybody worried about him. Like, you can't be worried about your own quarterback at all times. And
I want you to put up the list of the quarterback salaries, and I know we have it because I know when we talk Purdy, we love taking a look at this, but it's really difficult. Look at this list. This is what each quarterback's getting paid if you average out the guaranteed money and what they're making per season. And a lot of people argue these numbers, but this is basically what it is. If you take the totality of their contract and you split it up by the years of that contract, here's what you come up with. Dak's topping this list at $60 million. Now that's kind of brutal right now for Cowboys fans, but Dak, Burrow, Josh Allen, Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, Brock Purdy, and Jared Goff. By far, the name that jumps out on this list is Tua at $53 million. You could argue Trevor Lawrence, nobody's really excited about right now, but Tua, if you're talking about insuring the money next to that name, what's the hardest guy to insure on this list without question? What insurance company is taking a $50 million hit for Tua playing 17 games this season?
None.
Nobody. There is not an insurance company in the world that wants $53 million for whether or not Tua plays 17 games. We cannot have confidence around Tua. I'm sorry, that doesn't make us bad people. That just makes us informed. You cannot take what Tua has done in this league to this point and say that he will live up to $53 million this season. That would be the worst bet that you could make. I'm sorry, that check is the hardest to write on that list. It's just obvious. It's staring at you. It's really, really wildly over what we think we're going to get out of Tua this season.
Even though we haven't brought up the name Jordan Love, it's still a million times more digestible than that number for Tua. There's no doubt. On the no vibes list, none at all. Just whatever you thought you were going to be, you ain't. You're good enough to keep the job, but are you? You're probably not going to be replaced immediately. But Trevor Lawrence is on this list. I'm sorry, Trevor Lawrence has been a huge scoop of not impressive. If being the number one overall pick in the draft, and you play like this, you are now overrated for sure. How about Russell Wilson, Anthony Richardson, who might get Daniel Jones in Indianapolis, for goodness sakes. And I'm going to put Kirk Cousins on this list. Kirk Cousins makes a ton of money and has already been Michael Penixed and could be your quarterback if you want to trade for that salary.
If you wanted, and Pittsburgh didn't, and there you go. So he's already been passed over by Aaron Rodgers. Kirk Cousins is an interesting one because if we made this list overpaid, underpaid, I think Cousins would have to top it because he's the only guy that's truly not even taking number one snaps right now in training camp. So that's a rough number right there to be hitting. But the guy that I want to circle that you just mentioned, because we glossed over it and people don't know enough about this and don't think enough about this, but I want them to. When I thought overrated, the Shedeur thing stuck out with the draft. But the next guy for sure with me, and again because of the draft and where he was drafted and what we've gotten out of him, Anthony Richardson is costing Shane Steichen his job. That will happen. Indianapolis has a very good coach, a very good system, an outstanding running back, receivers that a lot of teams would like to have, and a defense that frankly plays over its head as well. This team keeps tripping over its third leg because of Anthony Richardson. This guy, you think this guy is going to be. Do you remember Ricky Dudley with the Raiders, Damon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Ricky Dudley.
Remember the quote on Dudley? Looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane, which is obviously too sexist. We can't say that anymore. But the idea was, looks like a stud and plays like a dud, right? Ricky Dudley was the statue of David chiseled. If you could make a tight end in a laboratory, it would have been Ricky Dudley, and yet he could never break out. And that was at the height of Tony Gonzalez destroying the Raiders every time they played the Chiefs. And Dudley couldn't get out of his own way at that position, right? So Anthony Richardson is that. This team thinks they have Lamar Jackson. That's what they thought when they drafted him. And it is such a shadow. Anthony Richardson is essentially the skin that a lizard sheds, and Lamar Jackson is actually the lizard. Anthony Richardson is the skin they leave behind, okay? And Lamar Jackson is actually the lizard that walks forward. He is simply what you want to be. He's like the memory of Lamar Jackson.
You can't be a threaten you with your legs quarterback and often hurt at the same time. You can't live in that space. You cannot.
I think his whole career is going to be defined by this. Week 1 of this past season, Anthony Richardson throws an unbelievable pass from his own end, maybe from his own 20-yard line. And he throws it about 3 yards past. I don't think it was Adonai, Baruch Adonai Mitchell. I can't remember which receiver it was. Right, exactly.
Sam, I need you to go on this rant without me. I got to take a quick leak. I'm so sorry. I'm going to remove myself. I'll be right back. Sammy, Anthony Richardson,
go. Anthony Richardson overthrows his receiver by at least 5 yards. Now, in the moment, because it's week 1, everyone says to themselves, look at the talent that Anthony Richardson has in his arm to make that pass. And it's true. None of us could go on an empty field and make that pass. But the idea that he is missing his receiver in that moment by those 3 yards, that's the difference between being a Pro Bowler, a playoff contender, a champion, a Hall of Famer. That's the difference between being obsolete and irrelevant and being a spectacular leader. Then on top of it, weeks later, Anthony Richardson pulls himself off the field during a game-tying drive. How in the world can your quarterback walk off the field and then just says in the press conference afterwards, I was just tired, I had to catch my breath? How does that happen at that position in that moment in time? It's inexcusable. If Daniel Jones beats out Anthony Richardson, and I'm not even talking about throughout the season wins more games, I'm talking about if week 1 Daniel Jones is playing quarterback for the Colts, this is the most miserable experiment we have seen recently at quarterback play from a very competent franchise. Anthony Richardson is the greatest mistake the Colts have made. This is a team and a franchise that drafted Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. This is a franchise that understands what getting the right quarterback can mean. They took Anthony Richardson, and I'm not saying at the time we weren't all nodding our heads in agreement with that because he looked every bit of Lamar Jackson, but he, in many ways, couldn't be more different. It's such a shame that he looks the part and is so far from being the part, and that is why they keep throwing him on the field, but it doesn't happen again and again and again.
By the way, I think Joseph Ehrenberg kind of nailed it here. He's the Colts Trey Lance.
Thank you.
That's not bad, Joseph. Not bad at all. Like and subscribe, our good friends. The sip of the day. I took too many sips of the day. I took an entire carafe of the day.
Look at you, dude.
Had a great backyard pee. I'm not going to lie. That was fantastic. So it is really good to be here.
Something that I might want to do. Now for those that follow me on Instagram, at Sam Batesh, there was a very, very adorable attempt at my son trying to do this, Damon. He put the cans on. He said he wanted to record, and we kind of did like a little Levi podcast. I put some of it out there. But as impressive as that is from my son Levi at 3 years old, if I started a chain on Instagram of Levi peeing in the backyard, that might even get more likes. You talk about backyard pees, and this is something I didn't teach him at all. He figured that out on his own. We were playing baseball one day in the backyard. He realized he had to go, and he turned around and figured it out quick because he knew that his path to the next pitch was to not leave that space and just take care of himself in that moment. So congrats to you today, and congrats to Levi on figuring that out.
Congrats to everyone. Again, a week in the woods. My kids were peeing on trees. They loved it. They absolutely loved it. Look, it's time, baby. Football season is going to be here before you know it. We're so excited about it. I can't wait for our Thursday shows come football season, Sammy. It's going to be an awful lot of fun, man.
Incredible.
I want to talk about some other business happening around the NFL.
Let's go, please.
So the Steelers, I thought this was interesting. The Steelers just traded for Jalen Ramsey, yet there's a talk that they might be in the market to maybe trade TJ Watt other than pay him what would be, you would assume, the highest paid defensive player in the history of football level salary. Now, how much does one defensive end really affect the outcome of a game? 1.5 sacks. Hey, you'll take 1.5 sacks from anybody, all you can get all day long. You go to the Hall of Fame if you get 1.5 sacks in your career. It's a big number. But do the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I feel are about to go through, let's just call it the fork in the road is here.
They've chosen to
deny with Aaron Rodgers that they're still on the path of we're about to do something. I think that they're at the end of a lot of things. And Mike Tomlin's era might be one of those things.
Well, the era, let's talk about what the era is, first of all. Let's just define the era for Mike Tomlin. What everyone will have on the epitaph for Mike Tomlin will be not a losing season, right? I mean, Mike Tomlin figured out a way to be 8-8, 9-8, no matter what, right? He did not fall under that line. That is a mighty impressive thing. When you look at Andy Reid has had losing seasons. Bill Belichick has had losing seasons. Mike Tomlin never had one. That's mighty impressive. So that's the line. That's the bar. That's the era. Please continue, Damon.
TJ Watt, for a guy who doesn't play a position that you think goes on to whether or not do you directly do it through this guy? Are you winning? How about this? I saw the Steelers have missed TJ Watt for 11 games in his career. They're 1-10 in the 11 games that he has not played. I think you can sell defense as a priority better in some cities than other. Chicago is one of them. Pittsburgh might be the other.
Baltimore.
And it's just that steel curtain defense. How could the Steelers even think of doing anything other than paying TJ Watt? I think it's insane. What are you, the Bengals messing around with Hendrickson? Like, what are you doing?
Now the Bengals, it's interesting. Maybe they spent too much money on T. Higgins. I won't say Jamar Chase and T. Higgins because Jamar Chase is 1,000% worth the money. T. Higgins as a second, maybe not, and we would find out if he was going to be the one somewhere else. But he'll continue to benefit from the fact that he's got Jamar on the other side. But in regards to defensive players, I just want to remind everybody this, though. When you look at the most heavily paid players that are not quarterbacks, and you see this number a lot, right? Non-QB, top salaries, non-QB, right? A lot of that right now is you're talking about Myles Garrett, you're talking about Max Crosby, and certainly TJ Watt is going to be on that once the new contract happens for him. When I talk about those first two names, Myles Garrett, though, and Max Crosby, are they tied to a lot of playoff wins? Not exactly. And by the way, TJ Watt, how many playoff games have the Steelers won with TJ Watt? 0. Now, I don't really want to tie that. I don't want to anchor that to those guys because we all know win-loss goes to the quarterback and it's not about the defensive player. But when you look at one singular defensive player, sometimes you have to spread that love. And it's not easy because you're dealing with a Hall of Fame defensive level player in TJ Watt. But the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. And afterwards, the guys that you heard about on the defensive line most in that game against Mahomes, all are gone. Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, those guys are gone. Those guys played spectacularly in the Super Bowl. Those were the guys that annihilated Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' offensive line in that game. They were gone days later. So sometimes you have to be smart enough to understand that putting all that money into one guy might not be worth it. But as you said, how in the world could the city of Pittsburgh say goodbye to Watt? It's essentially Bosa with the Niners. There are certain things that are immovable.
Why are you flipping Minka for Jalen Ramsey, another not inexpensive player, to then say goodbye to TJ Watt? It just does not make sense to me. And it's at the time of the year where smart teams gets players signed. I mean, there's no more room for acrimony in any negotiations. Training camp is going to be underway in a week or two. So I'm surprised that Pittsburgh is actually letting this twist in the wind.
I loved the Ramsey thing, and it was not because of the Ramsey thing in the moment. Like, Ramsey for Minka is not necessarily the upgrade in and of itself. If you look at it in a vacuum, the Minka Jalen thing is very difficult to dissect and very difficult to call winner or loser on that between Miami and Pittsburgh. But when you look at everything Pittsburgh's done in the offseason, the only thing I like about what's happening in Pittsburgh is they are addressing the idea that they lost 5 games in a row to end their season. 5. This is a team that beats the Ravens, and all of a sudden their Super Bowl odds skyrocket, right? This is a team that all of a sudden everyone says, oh, wow, Tomlin could do it again. He could put this thing together with paper clips and make it happen and fool us all and find a way to beat the Chiefs 16-15 in a playoff game, and maybe they'll wind up in the Super Bowl, right? Everyone's thinking that when they beat the Ravens. By the time they played the Ravens the second time around, it's their 4th loss in a row to then play the Ravens in the wild card round and lose their 5th game in a row. And that's the end of their season. They fell off a cliff, but when you look at what they look like on paper, 2024 to 2025, they made a lot of moves. You talk about Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay. This team looks so much different, Jalen Ramsey, than they did the year before. And as a fan of that team, you have to at least like when your team doesn't say, all right, hey, we made the playoffs, let's roll it out there again. No, this team's saying we weren't good enough. We didn't get to where we wanted to because we didn't just want to make the playoffs. We wanted to win a playoff game, if not more. And that didn't happen. And since Ben has left, it hasn't happened. So Russell Wilson gone, Aaron Rodgers in, Minka out, Jalen in. Is it enough? I don't know that those pieces are necessarily better. When I talk about each of the players I just mentioned, are they better than the pieces that were there before? I'm not positive. They are different, and I at least appreciate that Pittsburgh, who's not overly aggressive in regards to shaking up their pieces, at least did that. Obviously, Watt would be another conversation, but so far, I like that they've been aggressive.
I do too. I mean, there's no reason to not be, which brings me back to TJ Watt. What are you doing? What are you doing there?
Yes.
By the way, thank you, Tommy Huxley, Damon, the goat of goats. Look, I don't need to be a goat. I'm happy to be a farm dog. Who's happier than the farm dog? That's all I want to be. But happy 4th of July to you and yours too, and make sure everyone comes back with the same amount of fingers as you have right now when we're back doing this again on Monday. You don't want to go Jason Paul Pierre. You don't
Jason Pierre Paul yourself. And by the way, for those that haven't, if you want to, there was an interview that Jay Glazer did with Jason Pierre Paul years ago, and it was the first really that he spoke about the incident. If you go back and look at that, and maybe by the end of the show I'll get it and we can show it, but he shows his hand to Glazer. It is the greatest. It is the greatest commercial for be careful around fireworks that you've ever seen. If you ever want to just show somebody what Jason Pierre Paul's hand looked like before and after that incident, the fact that he won a Super Bowl after that moment is one of the greatest accomplishments of all time. This guy blew his fucking hand off on the 4th of July. So watch out. And he kept playing.
Yeah. Like, look at it this way. Ronnie Lott famously cut his pinky off to keep going. Yeah. This guy's whole hand was gone, and he kept going. I want to talk about traded players having the most impact where they land. And there's some really interesting names on this list, starting, with Bryce Huff coming to San Francisco. I think that's going to make a very interesting defense, more interesting. Like, I liked Bryce Huff back with Saleh. I'm excited to see it.
And before you move on, I just want to say, when you think about Huff, you got to think about it in the context of it's not just Huff. It's Huff and Saleh, and there's two parts of that. A, your defensive coordinator is a serious upgrade from what it was last season, and Huff's greatest season that he got the contract on was with Saleh as his head coach. So it's Saleh Huff together. It's a Huff Saleh salad, essentially. You got to think about it as both, because Huff was so underwhelming. You think about a team that won the Super Bowl and with their defensive line playing such a major story, and then Huff's sitting and watching that game on Super Bowl Sunday, that tells you it didn't go very well in Vic Fangio's scheme. But what he did for Saleh, that is a world of excitement for the Niners heading into the season.
I got another combo for you. Again, it wasn't a traded player, so we'll leave him off this list. But another combo that I think is going to, whether it goes to the postseason or not, it's going to add so much credibility to a franchise that was desperate for some. We'll get there in just a second. But DK Metcalf to the Steelers, Debo to Washington, George Pickens to Dallas. Which do you think has the biggest impact out there? I'm going to say it, and a lot of people are going to bet against this because it's easy to fade and not like the Cowboys, and it's easy to fade and not like Pickens. Look the fuck out for that guy. Look out for him and Dak going bonkers this year.
I'm so glad you said it, because I was going to say whether it's best or I'm most afraid of, it's Dak and Pickens, and here's why. Because CeeDee Lamb's on the other side. See, Pickens doesn't have to be, right? He doesn't have to be the guy. He can be an asshole for 6 weeks, and it'll be just fine. And I think Dak's got a pretty measured, I'll give Dak credit for one thing. That kid is cool as a cucumber. Dak Prescott is calm and cool. I always see that from him, and I appreciate that. Pickens has a chance because essentially Pickens feels like almost icing on the cake, right? You're counting on it not really working out. And now if it does, all of that is over what you really thought it was going to be. I like the Pickens thing. It scares me tremendously. And the only one I'll say right behind that, I do like the fact that Jaden Daniels would have Debo to play with in that offense. I think that could be. Debo's going to have a chip on his shoulder, as we know. Health becomes the biggest issue with Debo, as you also well know. But I feel like Jaden and Debo are going to give us a couple of moments. I know that's going to happen.
I was talking about this Monday with Kruger on Wake Up, and I do believe Kruger and I are doing a Friday 4th of July wake up for you.
Congrats!
And then I got the kids and everyone coming over for so there won't be a normal 11 o'clock show West Coast time here on the Plus tomorrow, but I do believe Kruger and I are going to do a wake up tomorrow. I think Deebo Samuel has 5 games left in him. Like, he'll be out there for more than 5 games, but I think he's going to have 5 games where you open that box score, you go, I missed that guy. But those games are going to be far and few between. I am not betting on Deebo Samuel to have some look at me, new guy, reinvigorated in a new spot. I'm over Deebo Samuel. I think it won't be very long until Commanders fans are going, this is it. This is all we get. This isn't nearly the hype that we were expecting. I'm all done believing in Deebo Samuels being the tremendous game changer, which for a minute in time, he certainly was.
He was. I mean, look, for Kyle Shanahan to be able to use Deebo the way that he was, I would assume Cliff Kingsbury will also be very creative in that regard. But you're saying that we're going to have 5 NFL primetime moments from Deebo, and that's it, right? 5 where you're
5 more, and he's got a 3-year deal, whatever that is.
The way, yeah. His greatest game, I remember NFL Network did a great piece over the. They're so good at just showing you old games for no reason, but then they'll put a little symbol in the corner that tells you why they're showing you. It was the free agency showcase games that they were going with, and Deebo, of course, was in that mix, and they were or traded players, whatever they were doing. Deebo's game against the Eagles, the rematch after the NFC Championship game, is one of the greatest takeover a game from that position that you'll ever see in this league. What Deebo did to the Eagles that day, running the football, scoring long touchdowns on receptions, Deebo was such a dominant alpha in that game. He smashed the Eagles into the ground that day, and if you look at it, it was really the beginning of the Eagles unraveling for what that season was. Deebo took over the game. So he's got that in him, but it has been a while since that game.
I'll tell you the move that I think has done more to add credibility to a situation that was devoid of credibility. And I'm not saying they're going to the playoffs. I'm not even saying they're going to have a winning record, but they're going to go from you might all be total slapdicks to better than that. Geno and Pete Carroll to the Raiders, dude. I'm in Pete Carroll's camp still. This guy is a great coach. I don't care how old he is. Pete Carroll, kind of the forever young, great motivator. You can feel his team playing hard for him. He is a fantastic coach. And I just think that Geno is a little bit better than the jokes about him want him to be. And watch the Raiders take a step forward in the credibility department. Watch them all of a sudden start masquerading as an actual football team that can put a couple of weeks together. I kind of like what the Raiders are doing.
What team had a greater facelift than the Steelers? It's the Raiders. I just talked about all the pieces that Pittsburgh added. But think about this. Head coach. I mean, that would be like Tomlin being out, right? So the Raiders have all the pieces I mentioned with Pittsburgh, plus it's Pete Carroll instead of Antonio Pierce. Right. So the Raiders... And we haven't even mentioned Ashton Genty. So when you talk about Geno, it's worthy of talking about all the other pieces. They've got the greatest, certainly the greatest new tight end in the league. I mean, I'll argue that Trey McBride is going to set the tight end position for the next decade. But when you look at what the Raiders did with rookie play out of their tight end last season, that is astronomical. And Geno's going to love having that guy on his side. Ashton Genty should be Saquon Bar. I'm talking rookie Saquon. Go back to rookie Saquon with the Giants. That's who Ashton Genty can be. From a fantasy football perspective, how people are going to be excited about Ashton Genty, that's what he could be for this offense. I love Geno Smith. If you go back to when Geno was backing up Russell Wilson, there was a game, it was a Sunday Night Football game, and Russell got knocked out of the end of the game for the Seahawks, and Geno comes in and he nearly brings him back. I can't remember who they were playing, but the bottom line is like, oh, that guy's still in the league. That was 4 years ago. 4 years ago, and you're like, oh, wait, wasn't Geno with the Giants? Didn't he take over when they benched Eli? Wasn't Geno? Wait, I remember with the Jets, right? You almost forgot he was in the league.
He played with Jeff Hostetler
right?
there.
I mean, you completely forgot. And there he was backing up Russell Wilson. He happened to come into that game. And then the Seahawks saw enough in that game that they thought, all right, you know what? Russ, see you later to Denver, which looked awful in the moment, of course. And Geno Smith leads that team to the playoffs, comeback player of the year. Geno Smith is to be reckoned with without question. And if you even go back to last season, Monday Night Football, Jared Goff had a perfect, I'm talking perfect completion and attempts game on Monday Night Football against the Seahawks. Right. Geno Smith played amazing in that game. That was a spectacular game, Seahawks-Lions last season on Monday Night Football. Geno Smith is going to be heard from. Geno Smith is absolutely going to be heard from in the silver and black. I love that move also. I do. Plus Pete, plus Ashton Genty. Raiders are going to be something special.
Plus JT the Brick. It's a tough combination to beat.
You cannot beat that. You just cannot beat it.
I want to say that the vibes are right. The vibes are good. Thank you so much for being with us today. Hit like and subscribe, not only here on Damon Bruce Plus, but over on Thinking Out Loud with Andrew and Sam. Do that too. And there's a few other things that we need to talk about here. Yes. It's been a while since you and I have sat down to do a show together. And I'll tell you, there's a story that is rippling, bubbling underneath the surface of all sports right now that you're going to see very little coverage of, because there is too much financial incentive to really cover this story the way it should, because of all of the gambling money that is now around sports and sports broadcasting and sports networks and sports advertising. The deal with the devil is starting to reveal itself just a little bit that sports made. Today, an hour or two before Sam and I sat down to start this live stream, I saw Jeff Passan with the story that now the Cleveland Guardians have right-hander Luis Ortiz being investigated by baseball for breaking the league's rules on sports gambling. Now, I've always said it'd be harder to rig a game of baseball than anything else unless you had a pitcher involved. Boom. There we go. Innocent till proven guilty. Don't know anything about it. I have not seen what I would call overwhelming, damning video evidence in the way that I have when it comes to Malik Beasley. Holy shit. Sam, have you seen some of the videos that have been passed around of Malik Beasley? Do you remember when he and Giannis got all sort of in each other's face because Giannis blocked a late three from Beasley, and Beasley got up, didn't want to shake Giannis's hand, and everyone thought it was because Giannis did a little shimmy on him? No, it's because Beasley had the over and he needed that three to go down in order for it to cover. There is times where he has his feet literally planted in concrete to let a blow-by guy go past him in a way that if it happened in a YMCA game, you would ask the guy to get off the court, much less in an NBA game. There is damning video evidence. And what we're learning about Malik Beasley is that major financial issues. This guy struggled to pay back $650,000 in an advance from a company that lent it to him. I even saw Black Sports Online reporting that he owed his barber $60,000 or $30,000 or something like. First of all,
good haircut.
What do you just, dude? All you're getting is fades. How is that $30,000 worth of fades? I mean, that's. Anyways, we need to talk about some financial responsibility in the hair department there. But Malik Beasley, for a guy who has made $60 million in his career already, is probably certainly not going to come anywhere near a 3-year, $42 million deal that the Pistons were about to maybe give him again. But now this investigation has come to light. He's the third NBA player to be investigated by the Eastern District of New York in the past 18 months. And for a third NBA player, now another baseball player. We've had lifetime baseball suspensions already come down. Sam, there is no coverage of what I will say is a major story happening right now. The deal with the devil is going to implode, explode. I don't know, but man, there's more coming. There's more coming on this, and I don't know who's going to have the guts outside of maybe Pablo Torre to actually cover it.
So go watch the 30 for 30 on the Boston College point shaving scheme. So this goes back, I mean, that story's 30 years old at least at this point. Basketball, you and I would agree, is the easiest to affect. When you do fouls, free throw shots, missing shots, you can, right? That's something that's tough for the naked eye to decipher, right? I mean, hitting a shot, I mean, the idea, look, you and I going behind the 3-point line and attempting those shots with no one on the court, we're hitting 2 and 3 of 10, right? And if you're in the NBA, if you have a split second opening at that 3-point line, you're supposed to hit 6 of 10, all right? I mean, that is unbelievable, the difference there. So no one's going to notice a missed 3-pointer in these games, and that's all you would have to do to affect it. So basketball's easiest. Malik Beasley is proving that. I think you're right. Baseball, outside of pitcher, going to be very difficult. And let's not forget, Calvin Ridley has already served a suspension in the NFL for betting illegally. I mean, legally / illegally.
He was on property when he was doing it. By the way, Otis is like a $60,000. No, it was like it was on the list. You know,
running tab. My tab. Put it on my tab.
Put it on my tab for a hamburger today. Yeah, you tabbed that up to about $60,000.
Put it on my tab. Legalization of gambling is revolutionizing sports for you and I. I mean, it's representing money for you and I because people are doing it. Casual sports fans are now more invested in sports because they are investing in sports. They are putting money on these games and they're mattering. For those that didn't grow up loving a team, guess what they love? Their wallet. You put $10 on a game and all of a sudden you're watching it with a completely different perspective.
Sure.
And for these players on the inside, imagine the opportunity. The only thing that just is mind-boggling to me, isn't the investment in yourself and your career going to pan out for more money? When you look at a guy like Beasley, certainly, right? Isn't there more money to be made just by playing basketball than whatever you can get in these bets? In other words, jeopardizing that.
He made $60 million in his career. What are you dinking and dunking around some DraftKings player prop bullshit for? It's amazing. And what really has not been covered is what's going on collegiately. In college, it is so easy to just be like, hey, guys, I can't do it. But if the rest of the frat house wants to make a whole bunch of money tonight, take the under. You know, I mean, it's there. I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know how it's going to happen. But I really think that we are in the year that will deliver us a crippling gambling story to have everybody sort of rethinking, should this be allowed in the first place? Like, is it time to say, sorry, everyone, I know you're enjoying the coal mine or the gold mine of all this, but we got to shut this mine down? Because let me just also say, I know that, a company that I'm working with is trying to arrange Bet US to come back and be a sponsor again. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be more than happy to take their money and tell you that you can go and sign up and Bet US and blah, 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 blah. I don't gamble on sports, because I know just enough to get in trouble with that, because I think I know enough. So I try not to do it. I make a little wager every now and then, just like Sammy said, have a little bit of fun. I hate that it is an ever-present conversation. Like the messaging, like, you can't have fun watching the NBA tonight unless you got a 3-team player prop parlay going. Like, that is such a bad message to be sending to kids, to 15-year-old kids, to 14, I don't mean to sound like Reverend Lovejoy, Mrs., the mother of Reverend Lovejoy. I'll think of the children, but it's gross how not just on the table, but in the center of the table, the topic is at all times now.
But you and I have one benefit over those who aren't passionate like this. You and I grew up loving teams, being tied to teams, tied to cities, tied to players that our parents were excited about, that passed it down to us. We have this inexplicable, because really explaining it to somebody else makes no sense. My mom told me for years when I would be unhappy and she'd say, "What's wrong, Sam?" And I would tell her that, a team lost a game. She'd say, "Sammy, you need to find a new religion." In other words, you're believing in something that you have no control over and it's affecting you, right? And she was right in many ways, but you and I have it. It's almost a sickness for liking these things for no reason, right? They wear a particular jersey. These are players that largely don't know who we are or care who we are, and yet they're going out and playing, and we are rooting for them. Why, we don't even know. Now, for the rest of the people out there, they don't have that interest. We are lucky that we have a passion for sitting down and watching these games because it affects the players and the teams that we love. But for somebody else, they simply need the money to be there to make it worth it. It's the difference between sitting down and playing poker with your friends when there's nothing on the line and going to Vegas and sitting at a table and really putting the cash down. That makes a huge difference, obviously, for many people, and many people love it. And obviously Las Vegas and the lights and the buildings will tell us that that works. That business model absolutely works. And for sports, that opportunity is there. And as I told you before, every Super Bowl will be in Las Vegas. At some point in our lifetime, I really think that every Super Bowl will be in Las Vegas. And it's twofold. Number one, the building's amazing. Number two, it's a city, as you and I have discussed, that is ready for that event to show up. They don't even flinch. They're ready to do that all the time. It's a convention. They do conventions every fucking week. And that's what the Super Bowl is. But number three, everybody for the Super Bowl, no matter what city it's in, ascends to Vegas to make bets and watch the Super Bowl, why not have the game there as well? And now everybody's there in sports books with the game, etc. It does drive passion, attention, and excitement around the game. I do understand it, but there will have to be, and frankly, this Beasley story is perhaps the beginning of that. There will have to be a separation, because if you have the players affecting the games and the outcomes, it's scary. We've already had, look, the NBA already has a play-in tournament so that we're not tanking games at the end of seasons, right? There's an incentive to be the 10 seed, whereas there used to not be. That is already something the league is trying to do. When you talk about tanking, that was only tied to whether or not you were going to get a lottery pick in the draft. The idea that there could be millions of dollars on the line for that, that's a scary proposition.
No doubt. No doubt. Since we're talking a little NBA right here, at least it felt like we were talking about the NBA, I got to ask you, have you in your life, covering sports, being a part of Colin's show, doing your own thing, have you ever seen a more yawn-worthy NBA free agency than what we have right now? Adam Silver has put so many financial handcuffs on owners that really want to spend with that second apron that it has taken what used to be a great week or two for the NBA and reduced it to, okay, so the biggest stories in the NBA during free agency so far is Kevin Durant to the Rockets. That's significant. And Red Panda fell off of her unicycle.
Which was a big story, and thank you for covering that.
Story.
And thank you for covering that in your social media as well, Damon and Red Panda. We like Caitlin Clark. We hope that she is recovering as well. But Kevin Durant was 5 years ago the greatest story that ever happened on the 4th of July, and is again, frankly. I mean, Kevin Durant is still. I mean, think about that. I mean, his career may be defined by that more than anything. I mean, where he ends up is still a massive story, and it was a stunning, shocking revelation to everyone when he ended up with the Warriors on the 4th of July. And I said 5 years ago. I think it's 6 or 7 years ago at this point, if not more. But when that happened on the 4th of July, that sent shockwaves through the world. The
problem is, though, is that this guy's been on like 3 teams in 4 years now. I mean, he goes from the Nets to the Suns to the Rockets.
I've said this. Durant is now, if you look at the end of what Durant's career is going to be, Shaquille O'Neal is, I mean, forget about Hall of Fame. There's like another tier to what Shaquille O'Neal means to basketball, right? But if you look at the end of his career in Phoenix and Cleveland and in Boston, it was a zero impact, don't need to talk about it. Anything beyond what he did with the Lakers and the Heat, obviously we don't really need to talk about. And for Durant, what he did in OKC and what he did with the Warriors will define him forever. And frankly, even if you want to give him credit for stepping on the line and being such a huge part of that Nets disaster, which never lived up to what it was supposed to be, thank you, Ben Simmons and everyone else who was involved in that disaster. But since then, the Phoenix thing you and I have discussed, and I get red in the face about it. I'm so angry that the Phoenix thing didn't work out. Kevin Durant, if he's not going to make it happen somewhere else, which he hasn't with the Nets, and he didn't with the Suns, and I have no expectation for what he's going to be with the Rockets. I think the end of his career is going to be like Shaquille O'Neal, where we look back, and yes, we remember him faintly in those jerseys, but there will be nothing to really speak of. And I always say this and bring it back to the Bay Area. Anytime Kevin Durant has a chance to team up with Steph Curry and chooses not to, it's not only a mistake for his own career, it's really selling you and I short for the opportunity to watch what was clearly the most dominant offense and frankly the most dominant team and the most dominant collection of 2 stars ever, which was Steph and Durant. That was absolutely unbreakable.
Kevin Durant is a bucket, but he's not a leader. And I don't think that he's going to be the one to lead the Houston Rockets. Look, I think the Capella move is interesting. The Rockets are certainly better. Adding Kevin Durant to their equation is the missing piece to what their equation was missing last year. My God, just Kevin Durant at the free throw line might have beaten the Golden State Warriors had he been in Houston last year in the postseason. But I don't know, man. I've lost respect for what the lead dog is supposed to be when it comes to Kevin Durant. He is a guy. He's a dog you want on your dog sled team. He will get you lost in the snow if it's up to him to lead the way. He's proven that twice now. He's proven that twice now. He was not the leader of the Nets. He was not the leader of the Suns.
It's really sad because of what he was. He was in the argument for the greatest current active player, and he was in that argument once. And that's when he was beating LeBron James in finals and destroying the Cavaliers when he was a member of the Warriors. That's it. I mean, that's just it. He was in that conversation during that time and not outside of it. And that's the end of that conversation. From free agency, the next biggest story that we got is another one that was sort of a yawn from a shock standpoint. It was LeBron's $51 million. That's still, I mean, when you talk about headlines and people giving a shit, LeBron's $51 million to stay in LA was really the story, because then you dissect, all right, is this LeBron's team? Is this Luka's team? What is going to be the future of this team that sells for $10 billion? And now Jeannie Buss is still involved, but obviously we've got now this Dodgers ownership here. What is it going to mean?
Well, what's LeBron in his representation talking about? Like, we might need to go. So you got Luka Doncic. It's LeBron and Luka. You can't put enough around that. I mean,
just stop it. Just stop it. And I would say the Ayton thing now, at least we can all pretend that Ayton is that number one pick from a few years ago and start to at least dream of a world in which that was their answer, because they were missing something in the middle. So maybe this is it. I like the collection of Lakers. There's sort of like the Knicks, where I don't want to put money on them for Vegas to win it all, but that's an interesting combination. And I just think LeBron, when it comes to the free agency headlines, I still think Durant and LeBron were the top ones. That's interesting.
How about Dame Lillard getting paid like $130 million to just go home and work on his ankle or his Achilles? That's, again, what are the Milwaukee Bucks doing? Sending Dame Lillard packing indefinitely. Here's all your money, and we're going to bring in Miles Turner. No wonder why Giannis is going, what? What's going on here?
What? And that'll be, by the way, you know, when we talk about Aaron Rodgers not winning enough championships, I do think Giannis, when we go back and look at the record books and we see what Giannis did in his dominant years, we're going to be wishing that he won more than one championship. I thought Milwaukee was headed for a dynasty once they put it together and Budenholzer was there and they were winning it all, and it really unraveled fast. And the fact that from an NBA Jam standpoint, Lillard and Giannis didn't mean that they were immediately in the Western Conference final, or the Eastern Conference, that was really upsetting. I just couldn't believe that they didn't get more out of that. That was a disaster.
They got like nothing out of that. It
Zero.
Didn't change the arc of them at all. And Doc Rivers is not the guy you want pulling levers anymore. I just think that that's a part of it too. But, you know, the Kuminga thing with the Golden State Warriors, not understanding his value as a player, not understanding his value as an asset, not being able to deploy for your own team's benefit in either direction. It's amazing how much they have, you know, botched this, or playing the slow game is brilliant. And there's going to be a trade of Kuminga in season to get, you know, that gets them their Giannis. But I'm so sick and tired. You can't even land Al Horford, for goodness sakes, right now. Like,
I wonder where we would have been if we were doing this show the day that Rick Barry told everyone to be quiet in the arena because they were upset that Monte Ellis was not going to be re-upping with the Warriors. I mean, there is some part of that somebody is smarter than you and I and the fans, right? I mean, there is that part of it that we know something that you don't, and we're going to bank on Steph and Clay, and that's going to mean more than Monte Ellis. And of course, look at how much it did make a difference. But I think you're right. I mean, Kuminga was starting to define what would be the next chapter. That, right? You needed a transition. You needed a baton in LA. It's LeBron to Luka, and sort of what is it now with Steph, right? Like where's the baton going there? And it felt like perhaps Kuminga was that guy. So
wasn't Jordan Poole supposed to be that?
Yeah, of course,
I mean,
yes. Well, again, if you punch him in the face,
more young, actually kind of getting it done talent in this league. Just so they can have Brandon Pajemski now. It's and we'll see if Brandon Pajemski really turns the corner and into who he might be, or maybe he's just the biggest Valkyries fan you're going to find. We do not know yet. I want to move it over to baseball for a little bit.
Can we hit one more thing on the NBA? Can we we just put a button on? Can we put a button on the Knicks? And this has a Bay Area tie to it as well. Oh,
that's right. We got to talk about Mike Brown.
But I know that you've got thoughts on Mike Brown, and look, he should be beloved in the Bay Area. I mean, he basically was next to Steve Kerr for all of this greatness. And then remember when Steve Kerr had to step down for a few games. In fact, the most unblemished portion of Mike Brown's head coaching career is the games where he stepped in for Kerr during that season, which again, it was tough. It was tough to screw it up with that collection of players. But
Luke Walton treatment. Luke Walton went 24-1 or whatever it was with it.
Exactly. So Mike Brown, really his greatest days are taking LeBron to the finals in 2007. And I'm going to give him all the credit for that. That was an unbelievable run with a team with a collection of people around LeBron James, and forget about the fact that they got swept by one of the greatest dynasties in the league and the Spurs in that finals. To beat who was the top dog in the East in the Pistons, if you go back and remember that. And I believe that was the year of the We Believe Warriors, Damon. I believe that was that same season where the Warriors had upset the Mavericks, and then LeBron took down the Pistons to get to the finals in that one.
Right.
I believe
and LeBron was incredible against the Pistons to do it. And he was out there with, let's remember, I mean, that was like Larry Hughes,
Boobie Gibson. I believe Varejao, right? There was, I mean, that was not your greatest.
I got one for you. I guess who was also on that team? Ira Newble.
There you go. And who was the
Eric
guy that was?
Snow. I remember Eric Snow.
Who was the guy that was tied up with LeBron's mom, right? There was all that whole story was from that team as
Delonte
well.
West.
Delonte, right? Exactly, Delonte West. So that was an interesting collection of players. And yeah, you mentioned Larry Hughes, right? The great former Warrior who was on that team as well. That was a fun collection of guys. But Mike Brown got more out of that in that season. Now the following seasons, he obviously didn't get enough out of that. I believe the Cavs were even a 1 seed for one of those and didn't go to the finals. But Mike Brown was great then. The idea that the Knicks just hired the guy that got fired by the Sacramento Kings, to me, though, is reprehensible when you think about what they had in Tom Thibodeau. Will you please share with everyone right now what the Knicks have been with and without Tom Thibodeau? I want you to look at what we have on the screen right now, and for those listening only, we're talking about the past 25 seasons of Knicks basketball. Now, remember that a Knicks fan is going to tell you that this is the mecca of basketball because of Madison Square Garden and that the Knicks matter because Spike Lee is at the games. But can we remind everyone how fucking irrelevant the Knicks have been in regards to the Eastern Conference and who represents that team, that conference in the NBA Finals? In the first, if you look at the last 20...
By the way, I'm sorry, Spike. I think this is Chalamet's team now. Chalamet or Ben Stiller.
Yes.
I think Spike's been bumped to third.
I think you're right about that. The last 25 seasons, Damon. So, in the last 25 seasons, the past 5 seasons, Tom Thibodeau has won 57% of his games, and he has 4 playoff series wins. That's in the last 5 seasons. The 20 seasons before that, the Knicks were at a .400 winning percentage, which was worst in the league over that span, and they won how many playoff series in 20 seasons?
1.
What the fuck just happened here? Tom Thibodeau lost his job after taking these Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals and losing to, remember, the Pacers, who are in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, and if not for Halliburton's injury in the first quarter, potentially the NBA champion Indiana Pacers. He lost in 6 games to the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Knicks are now convincing everyone that they've swapped Thibodeau for Mike Brown, and that means this Knicks team will be in the NBA Finals next season, because remember, the only way that this is a better move than Thibodeau is if they're in the NBA Finals. Eastern Conference Finals with Thibodeau, slot Thibodeau out, Mike Brown is in. Are you better than that or are you not? That's how we define. It's not about whether or not people in the building get along better. None of the fans give a shit about that. It's about whether you win more games in the postseason. That is how we define greatness in sports. And if you play in the mecca of basketball, you should be defined by what you do in the postseason. And Thibodeau's done more in the postseason than anyone has done in the last 25 years of Knicks basketball. Yeah. How the hell is he out of a job?
Well, I'll tell you, there's only one word that answers it all. Dolan. Jimmy Dolan came back into the room, saw that everyone was interested in his shiny Knicks toy again. And instead of being in Las Vegas, opening up the Sphere, he comes back to New York and immediately gets himself over-involved in what was a winning situation. Now, there is grumblings that Brunson and Hart and company had a little, Thibodeau wasn't their cup of tea. But here's the deal. The Knicks had one advantage, and that was they were the team that was going to lead their 5 starters in this game longer than anybody. And you could say Thibodeau was irresponsible doing that. I would also say that was the Knicks' greatest strength. And there was a toughness to them that I don't know if we'll just, roll over to Mike Brown. Now, let me say this about Mike Brown. He will maximize the talent on the roster. I think he will do that. I do think he will keep guys fresher to try to reach the promised land when the postseason actually materializes. I do know that he's going to get along with everyone. And like you said, it really doesn't matter. But in New York, there's so much toxicity ready to be unleashed around the Knicks. At any moment in time, having a guy who can keep a locker room bouncy and keep the press at bay is important. I'm not betting against Mike Brown, but I wouldn't bet on him either.
I'm not even betting against Mike Brown. I'm betting against the idea that the Eastern Conference Finals is not enough. That's what I'm actually just betting about what Knicks fans and what this Knicks organization thinks they deserve. They deserve to be in the NBA Finals. Why? Everyone would say that if Jason Tatum is healthy, that goes differently, right? And everyone would say heading into a season where the Celtics are healthy is a completely different Eastern Conference. Does anyone think that going into next season, the Knicks are the favorite to go to the NBA Finals? The favorite. No. Are they the favorite? Are the Knicks they're just not. And again, I remind everybody, the Sixers had the plan, trust the process. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, Doc Rivers. They've had it all. They've tried it all. Nick Nurse, etc. The Sixers with Embiid, the former MVP, went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Never. It never happened because getting to the Eastern Conference Finals is difficult. This is difficult. The NBA playoffs are hard. They made it even harder now. You got to be a play-in to get into the playoff, and then you got to win a round, and then you got to win another round, and then you got to win another fucking round. It's hard to do. Don't take these things for granted. The Sixers never sniffed the Eastern Conference Final other than Kawhi bounce, and in against that team in Game 7. That's the closest they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Knicks just did it. And they fired their coach, and Mike Brown now has the expectation of taking this team to the NBA Finals. And to that, I say good luck to a guy who otherwise would have been judged by the futility of those 20 seasons where they had only won one playoff series. And I would have said, yes, Mike Brown's going to win more than one playoff series. But now he's got to win more than 4 to be better than Thibodeau.
By the way, Postman and Capitola, always good to see you, Postman.
Yes.
If Kuminga signs a qualifying offer, he can't be traded. He can be traded, but he does have the right of refusal. It kicks in a no trade for him. Now, if he approves a trade, he can still be traded, but it gets more complicated. He could veto a trade if he does indeed sign that qualifying offer. So the Warriors have slow played his career, his transactions, his offseason asset portion of his career. Probably should have traded him last year, didn't. And now they might be in a situation where he signs that qualifying offer, kind of has a, hangdog year for the Warriors, and then just bounces. He's already told the Warriors, I would rather be the leading scorer on a shit team than a helping hand on this one. Anyway, he's basically said that. So,
which, by the way, is the wrong mentality for any player, really. I mean, that's not what the fans want to hear, that you're ready to contribute to a championship, that you'll do whatever it takes. The reason we loved the reason we loved Durant and Curry together is that both guys had to say, essentially, we're better together than we are as a single part of this. And that's the beauty of sports, is when tremendous players come together, which I know we're going to get to when we talk baseball here, because sometimes it takes 3 MVPs coming together on the same team to win a championship. That's what it takes sometimes, because by themselves, winning an MVP somewhere else may not be enough.
Of the 5 best players in the National League, 3 might be Los Angeles Dodgers. It is kind of insane.
Is that fucking incredible?
Let's start with the fact that history was officially made last night, and there's no denying what Clayton Kershaw has done. He's joined the 3,000 strikeout club. Walter Johnson of the Senators, Bob Gibson of the Cardinals, and Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers are the only 3 guys to have ever done it with one franchise. Kershaw, just the 4th lefty ever to join the club of now 20 pitchers that have struck out 3,000. He joins Randy Johnson, Steve Carlton, and CC Sabathia. But he did it last night. Obviously, Dodger Stadium went nuts at the end of that game when Freddie Freeman sent everybody home happy and a winner. Max Muncy, though, got his knee blown up at 3rd. I would say that that's a big deal, but it isn't for the Dodgers because they still have 3 MVPs in their lineup, including Shohei Ohtani, who's pretty much, you can give him the MVP right now in the National League. Just go ahead and give it to him. I don't care what happens in the second half. It's pretty much already his. This guy is unfreaking believable. And by the way, he turns 31 in 2 days. His birthday is the 5th of July. And it's too bad it's not the 4th of July, because then Shohei Ohtani could have actually been the greatest living American. He is an American now. That's it. I'm claiming Shohei Ohtani. Japan, he's ours now. This is the greatest baseball player of all time. There's no one in the conversation with him. Fuck you, Babe Ruth. Fuck you. It's Shohei Ohtani's world. You're living in his, not the other way around.
You're so right about this. The greatest baseball player, America's pastime, apple pie, Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani defines what baseball is. Yes, every player that bats also plays defense, but none of them pitch. And what Shohei Ohtani is now doing, following a World Series run, he has pitched. He has pitched for the Dodgers. Now, those that weren't paying attention, he was in the Cy Young conversation when he pitched for the Angels. He is the greatest player. And in a year that he didn't pitch last year, he had the greatest offensive season we have ever seen because no one's ever gone 50-50. He did that in a season coming off of a gambling scandal by his best friend interpreter. In his first season with a new team with real expectations, he wins the MVP. He is the first ever 50-50 season, and his team wins the World Series. Is that a nice first year in LA? Is that a nice first season with the Dodgers? That's pretty spectacular coming from Anaheim. And he's back now,
and he's hitting 102 on the gun, and they haven't hardly even stretched him out yet.
In his second start, Damon, in his second start, he pitches a scoreless inning to start the game. He strikes out 2 batters. He hits a home run and a triple. He scores 3 runs and drives in 5. Is there another player in the world who can claim that stat line? There simply is not anybody, and he's not doing this in a city that doesn't care about wins and losses, that doesn't care about postseason, that doesn't define success by championships. And that's where the Dodgers are. They are winning championships. They are the favorite to win the championship in a landslide. Do you understand what plus 250 means? If the playoffs started today, plus 250 would be a lot to give the favorite when you're talking about 8 teams, not every single team in the league still technically being alive to win that championship. It's unbelievable what the Dodgers have done. And if you go to Dodger Stadium and watch how he has transformed what baseball means in the city of Los Angeles, it is indecipherable. Shohei Ohtani is the greatest impact we've seen on any sport, and he's done it to the one that Americans would claim belongs to them, and it now officially, like you said, belongs to Shohei Ohtani. He is ours. I love that, Damon. And he hit his 30th home run before the All-Star break 2 nights ago. This guy is unlike anything we've ever seen.
Dude, he's hitting 286, which is better than his career average so far this season. 30 home runs, 56 RBIs. And while we were talking, Rafael Devers just struck out another 2 times.
I love this connection that we'll always have with the Giants. And I sent you something on Willie Adames the other day because it's just
going to be the worst contract in the history of San Francisco sports. It's going to be the worst contract in Bay Area sports history when it's all said and done.
Hopefully Devers can make that right and make it competitive, which we think eventually it will. But one more point about Shohei is he will be the National League MVP yet again. His first 2 seasons with the Dodgers, National League MVP. He will pitch for this team. And if he gets a win as a part of any postseason victory for the Dodgers, again, I don't want to see other resumes being applied for greatest player of all time in this game because Shohei will have done it. He pitched with the Angels spectacularly. He will have an impact pitching for the Dodgers. He's had an unbelievable impact. And you talked about Freddie Freeman winning that game last night. By the way, Shohei Ohtani was only 1 for 5 in that game. But guess what happened in the 9th inning? The Dodgers were trailing by 2 runs. Shohei grounds out, but runs out to make sure it's not a double play to score what is their 3rd run in a game they're trailing now 4-3. He then steals second base and scores the winning run on Freddie Freeman's base hit at the end of the game. So remember, he plays hero even when the night is about Kershaw and Freeman. Go look at the box score. Shohei Ohtani affected that win as much as either guy. And you could argue, frankly, yes, it was a milestone for Kershaw. Shohei may have more of an impact on that game than Kershaw actually did.
I'll tell you what was maybe his most impressive moment, though. Shohei Ohtani, this is where you go, okay, he's officially unlike the others. Unlike the rest, not only is he better at it, his wiring is better than all of yours. His most impressive moment of the season, Sammy, was keeping his cool during that Padres series where the beanball wars were just breaking out and they were trying to put one in Manny Machado's ear hole, and they came back at Ohtani, and benches are ready. Again, if you breathe on Shohei wrong every Dodger should spill onto that field looking to just beat somebody up. I believe in that being the right thing to do. What did Ohtani do? He waved it all off, just saying,
he's hugging the Padres first baseman when he gets down there to say, we're all good. We're all good.
Let's keep our cool because we're the better team. And as long as none of us get ejected, as long as we trade none of us for any of you bums, we're the better team. We're going to beat you. There is a level of maturity. And this is one of those don't mistake kindness for weakness situations. Totally. Shohei Ohtani is better at every single element of baseball than maybe anyone who has ever played before. From a mental game, from a preparation standpoint, all of it. Hulking beast at the plate, runs like the wind on the base paths. There's never been anybody like, I remember having this debate with Ray Ratto, who wanted to tell me I was wrong about everything. I said, Ray, the fucking sky is blue. Well, not really. And I remember him talking about Willie Mays. And I just said, what was his ERA, Ray? What was Willie's ERA? Did he touch 102 on the gun? What was Willie's ERA? And he just said, well, there's a different thing then. I'm like, yeah, that's right. This guy is different.
It is different. And the reason he understands and he's apologizing when he gets hit by a pitch and saying, don't come out of the dugout for me, because he understands what it's like on the mound also, Damon. He understands both sides of it, right? In a beanball war, there are two sides of it. There's the hitter that is getting hit by the pitch, of course, and there's the pitcher who's delivering that and getting a message from his dugout and whatever the hell these unspoken, ridiculous, stupid rules in baseball are about hitting guys. Let's just try not to throw at the other team, period, by the way. But Shohei understands that. He doesn't want to get caught up because he knows he's the cycle, because he's going to actually take the mound and have an opportunity, right? This isn't about sending a message. This is on him. He gets hit by a pitch. He's going to be out there 2 days later pitching. He could take care of it all. He's the only guy who can do that. He's the only guy who can truly represent both sides in that moment. And he's saying, everybody chill the fuck out.
It's something else, man. He's a special guy.
It is. And one thing I just want to say about Kershaw, for those that are hating on Kershaw, CK3K, I like that. Clayton Kershaw 3000, and he deserved it, and he is an absolute legend, Hall of Famer, etc. But put on the screen right now, I want to remind everybody, for those that say Clayton Kershaw never did anything in the postseason, and he's great, but what about the postseason? The Dodgers have now won 2 World Series in recent memory. 2024, he wasn't a big part of. But can I remind everybody, and enough with this bullshit, it's a COVID championship. In 2020, can we look at what Clayton Kershaw did during the 2020? This is the postseason that we're looking at right now. He was 4-1 in that run for the Dodgers. In the wild card round, he went 8 innings and struck out 13 Brewers. In the Padres, in the NLDS, he pitched a game in that series, 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, another win for the Dodgers. He did lose to the Braves in the NLCS. Yes, he did. 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, but he gave up 4 runs. In the World Series, he pitched 2 games against the Rays. Obviously, the Dodgers won that series, won the championship. In those games, he pitched 6 innings, striking out 8 Rays in the first game that he played in. And in 5 2/3, in game 5 of that series, the Dodgers eventually won in 6. He went 5 2/3 and struck out 6 Rays in that game. He was so dominant in that 2020 run for the Dodgers. He was everything that you said he couldn't be in the postseason. In 2020, you do not win the World Series without Clayton Kershaw. Not what he did in the regular season, what he did in the postseason. And don't tell me he got some kind of fucking benefit from playing in Arlington. All right? That didn't help Clayton Kershaw.
Let's also not pretend that Clayton Kershaw didn't have postseason struggles.
Yes, he did.
For a minute there, he would get to the playoffs and would be non-functional at times, and you're like, who is this guy who body snatched the real Clayton Kershaw and replaced him with what we're watching tonight? This does not make sense.
It didn't.
And remember, they said the exact same thing about Barry Bonds, and then Barry Bonds hit a home run in Anaheim that is still traveling around Orange County to today. And
Tim Salmon's quote on that ball, that's the farthest I've ever seen a ball hit. And that was when they went to their bullpen to bring in their starter, Jared Washburn, who threw 1 pitch to Bonds. That ball is still going.
It's look, baseball's the ultimate. You cannot evaluate anything on a small sample size sport.
And failure defines the game.
Pretty damn good.
And failure defines the game, Damon. Again,
right.
Failure defines it. Every number for the greatest players in the game is under 50%.
Right. If you do something 4 out of 10 times, you will be the single greatest to have ever done it.
Thanks for getting me involved in that sport. That's difficult.
Jackasses. Speaking of baseball and jackasses, we haven't said anything about John Fisher or the A's today, but I don't really want to talk about them. What I do want to talk about is why more players aren't vocal about what a disaster that is. The one thing I do know is that every single time you sign a contract, you're going to get every penny. There's no such thing as conduct detrimental or thing that you said in a press conference that's going to null and void a contract. And what I don't understand is why so many players, either A's players or visiting players, have not said, this is unbecoming of Major League Baseball. This is a fine minor league ballpark, but a major league ballpark, it is not. Severino has come the closest to actually offering up a level of criticism of what John Fisher has done by moving into a minor league ballpark. By the way, notice that there are no complaints about this facility is inadequate happening around Tampa, who's playing in a minor league ballpark, because they're playing in the Yankees minor league ballpark, which is better maintained than anything John Fisher will ever oversee. It's just that simple. Why aren't more players vocal about motherfucking the worst owner who puts players not just in position to fail, but in position to maybe even get injured? I'm surprised guys are as tight-lipped about how bad that situation is. I like, you have the single strongest union in the history of American labor workforce. Get on that soapbox and say, this ain't right.
And what would Luz Severino know about playing for an organization that treats their players right or understands the sanctity of baseball, right? I mean, Severino, to say what he did, finally to define the difference between what being a Yankee and being an A could look like. It's never been greater. You and I were there in the seasons when the A's played the Yankees and had 2-0 series leads, twice opportunities to end the Yankee season, and instead, Jeremy Giambi, please slide. It goes the Yankees' ways, but that was at the time defining what was Moneyball, little engine that could, and the team spending all of the big money, which of course was stamped by Giambi, then becoming Jason Giambi, becoming a Yankee. Of course, that was the ultimate. But at that time, those teams were at their peak with an unbelievable pitching staff, the definition of Moneyball, whatever you want to say, Billy Bean, tip of the cap, that was unbelievable. It didn't happen, but they represented the two different sides of baseball, the Yankees and the A's. And now for the A's to not have a home and to have someone who understands what it's like in the Yankees organization to speak about what it's like to now be pitching for this team, I think it's the exact right voice that you need to say, wait a second, is this really what we should be doing?
It's not. It simply isn't. It's obvious to the casual observer that something is off here. It's obvious to someone who is new to Major League Baseball to look at what the A's are doing, the situation that they have put now 2 cities in, a franchise in, all these players. Is there anything lamer than being called up from the minor leagues to the A's only to make your Major League debut in a minor league ballpark? That blows.
What an irony. What an incredible irony that is.
Say whatever you want about the Coliseum. It's 1,000 times better than that minor league ballpark that they're playing in now. It was 1,000 times better. It might not have been as aesthetically pleasing, but I would also say that wasn't true at all. Like, it was its own beautiful little chop shop. It was I think that John Fisher needs to be crucified for the sins that he has made against Major League Baseball and an organization that he has taken from used to mean something and reduced them to absolutely nothing. I was talking to JT the Brick about the groundbreaking ceremony, only to find out that the construction equipment was rented, the financing has not been accomplished, and the blueprints haven't been seen by anybody.
The only thing that would be okay with the A's playing in Sacramento the way that they are would be if the rendering for the new ballpark in Las Vegas was on the screen every single time a game was shown. If we knew, again, if this was, we're moving into the apartment before we get the keys to our mansion, this is okay. This is completely right. If the transparency is there about what is next, and what is next is the Millennium Falcon of baseball stadiums, and we all know that it's the right move because they're going to be in Vegas and they're going to be the new shiny toy in Major League Baseball, that's great. The idea that we really don't know what is next and they're playing in Sacramento, that's why you can tear at this so easily. It would be easy to say, all right, we're moving. We're in transition. We're moving to another great place. We're moving to a better neighborhood. We're moving to a bigger, more spacious, more spectacular ballpark. That would all make sense. That has happened. Teams have transitioned like that before, but this is not that.
And what's funny, Sam, is, I get people who monitor what I say, my criticisms from Las Vegas, who are obviously very pro the A's moving to Las Vegas, and they will send me the renderings of the ballpark, which, hey, if they actually build what I'm looking at, I guess that would be impressive.
Yes.
Do you know how many fucking renderings of ballparks I have seen between Laney College and Fremont and Hayward and all the places that the A's were going to move, and the San Jose A's, if they were going to move down there? Then you had the whole, Hamilton Landing thing. Like, I have seen more renderings of A's future ballparks to know that none of them should be trusted. Not one of them, until there's an actual shovel in the ground, and there are no shovels. What they are is clearing that space for construction. It doesn't necessarily mean the A's are going to be constructing anything out there. Although it does feel like this has gone so public, and Major League Baseball is so now determined to make this happen. It feels like all the levers that Major League Baseball could possibly pull to not look stupid is going to get the A's to Las Vegas more than the actual efforts of John Fisher.
I just can't even understand. The Angels should be the embarrassment of that division. The AL West should be defined by the futility of the Angels when you look at the fact that they had Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, Shohei Ohtani on this team and never won a playoff game in the history of Mike Trout. That should be the greatest blemish on the AL West. And instead, it's the A's playing without a city right now. That's the greatest embarrassment to baseball from that division. And it should be, as I said, the futility of the Mike Trout Hall of Fame first ballot career that never produced a playoff victory. That should be the mark on this division, and it's not.
I want to thank everybody for watching today. I know, Sammy, you got to get running. You got a little Levi pickup to do, which means it's officially time for us to get to Today in History. But before we do that one last time, let me just tell you, it is a great time for you to sign up for that Ike's Love Rewards program. If you already have, he has put $4 into your rewards account that can be used towards sandwiches, chips, drinks, whatever. Think about Ike's tomorrow as you're enjoying the 4th of July. If you've done a lot of grilling on the 4th of July and you don't want to do any more of that on the 5th of July, think about Ike's all weekend long. I want you to think about Ike's for dinner, not just lunch. When you're at lunch at Ike's, go ahead, pick up a little something for dinner too. Keeps well in the fridge. You'll be very, very happy that you did. And once again, folks at the Dubliner, love you. Love the Dubliner. I'm trying to figure out the right day for us all to get together at the Dubliner and then go like a little group ticket purchase over in the bleachers to a Giants game. We're going to be working on that in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll have a little announcement for everybody involved. Let's see. I just got a note that says you got to jump in 3 minutes. Let's
do it.
Go. Happy birthday to Kurtwood Smith. Do you know who that is, Sammy?
Kurtwood Smith. You're going to tell me about Kurtwood Smith. Give me, because I feel like we know him by another name.
He was the bad guy in RoboCop before he became the dad on That 70s Show.
So Kurtwood Smith, again, for those that don't know RoboCop, by the way, obviously go back and do yourself that favor. But it was almost turned RoboCop. His role was so special in that it almost turned RoboCop into a horror film. That's how terrifying he was, right? I mean, he was so scary in that. And what greater arc of a career than, like you said, to play those two very different characters.
81 years old today, Kurtwood Smith. Happy birthday to Yeardley Smith.
Okay.
Do you know who that is?
Okay, wait. Now, Yeardley, also an actor, but wait, I know him from...
Actress.
Yes. Is that... It's not Punky Brewster, is it? No.
No. That was Soleil Moon Frye.
Yes, you're right. Yeardley's the voice of Lisa, right?
She's the voice of Bart Simpson.
Oh my God, Bart, that's right. Simpson. That's the best. That is
Bart
great.
Simpson. There you go. Another guy I heard he's kind of a big deal in Hollywood. By the way, Yeardley Smith is 60. Happy 62nd birthday to Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is 62. Unreal. Go look at a picture of that motherfucker, and you tell me that man's 62 years old. Whoever his plastic surgeon is has done an incredible job. He's kept himself in great shape. It makes me want to think about considering Scientology. If you get to look like that when you're 60, I'm just kidding. You got to be a psychopath to believe in any of that. But Tom Cruise, interesting fella. He is like singularly keeping movies alive at times. It feels like I respect what Tom Cruise has meant to the movie industry.
Oh, without question. I mean, Vanilla Sky, which is not talked about a lot, I think is one of my favorite movies of all time. But for those that haven't seen it, go check out Mission Impossible in a theater. Because again, as you said, Tom Cruise is keeping the movie industry, because going to a movie theater means something different than watching it at home. And it is Tom Cruise's movies that are getting you into a theater these days. That's what he does. When you talk about putting butts in seats, it's those seats that are more impressive than the ones at your house where you're simply clicking on it.
We go to Jamie, who says Nancy Cartwright is the voice of Bart Simpson. So is she only a voice? Is she Lisa?
No, wait, let's go.
Did you have that right, Sammy?
Let's go back. I want to be completely okay. So Yeardley, by the way, is, and there was also a great TV show she was a part of as well. But Yeardley is known mostly for Lisa Simpson.
There you go.
Okay, I was right. Right. Yes.
Nailed it.
Nice.
Thank you. But we're like Stat Boy. We want to correct things in real time at the end of the show.
That's all right. But I'm going to get you Bart's, because Bart is also, I believe it's a female voice as well. Nancy Cartwright is the voice of Bart.
How about this? What if I said you're in charge of an entire continental army, and by a year later you got yourself a country? Today in 1775. George Washington assumed command of the Continental Army, beat the shit out of a country that was arrogant enough to march around the woods in red coats, thinking that, we're going to do it. No, George is like, let's show them what guerrilla warfare looks like. Kick their ass. And in one more year, again, he was promoted in 1775, 1776, 4th of July. You do the math. Who got more done in a year than George fucking Washington?
Wow.
Nice job, buddy. Today in 1852, Congress established the second mint in the United States, and it still stands on Market Street. There it is in San Francisco. That was the second mint ever established in the United States. That's still the most fortified building in the city, Sam.
Incredible, really. And again, San Francisco, which is littered with unbelievable. I mean, again, you're driving down Lombard. I mean, the architecture in San Francisco, please, if you haven't, go appreciate it.
Check it out. Today in 1863, after 3 brutal, bloody days, the Battle of Gettysburg ended. Today in 1863, more than 50,000 casualties in 72 hours. These are bad times. But it was a good time for the North, because that really turned the Civil War to the North. And obviously they're trying to undo all of that right now. 1884, Dow Jones and Company published its first stock report. Charles Dow, Edward Jones, and a guy named Charles Bergstresser, who was forgotten in time because we don't call it the Bergstresser average. It's just Dow Jones. How did
Which was a miss?
Get talked out of that?
By the way, that's a miss. That's just a complete miss, because Bergstresser is something that I just need more of in my life.
The amount of rock stars who died when they were 27. It's like a dead wrestler list. It's kind of amazing. Today in 1969, after being dismissed from the Rolling Stones, Brian Jones, an original member, died in an accidental drowning at the age of 27. Today in 1971, an accidental drug overdose for Jim Morrison at the age of 27. Janis Joplin died when she was 27. A lot of people die when they're 27.
This is eerie. This is very eerie. Vlad Guerrero's number. Yeah, that's eerie. 27.
Vladimir Guerrero. How do you get something of this? Today in 1985, Back to the Future was released in theaters. That was a big deal.
I just want to say this. Speaking of sports gambling, the resonant moment for me in all of the Back to the Futures will be the idea that you could have gone back in time and taken a sports almanac and made all of the bets based on what the outcomes were.
Wouldn't that have been... What a plot point. That was Back to the Future too, but it was great. It was a great plot point. And it also, not that we do a lot of movies here in history, but today in 1991, we officially saw things that we had only seen in the last 8 seconds of the black and white video. CGI really coming into our movies like never before. Today in 1991, Terminator 2 Judgment Day came out. And all I can tell you is that when you were our age and you saw that in the theater, you had never seen anything like that before in your entire life. It was something special.
Eddie Furlong, thank you so much for that role as well. But that was, wow. And not, look, and I hate when people say, oh, that's all he did. I mean, in your life, have you ever done anything that, you know, close to what Eddie Furlong did to be a part of that movie? But that was a tremendous role, and what a movie that was. And it's rare that we talk about sequels being better than the original, but T2, as it is known, is better than the original. Not that you don't want to watch the original, but Terminator 2 is a superior movie to 1, and it has resonance still to this day.
Outside of, so what's the official list? Terminator 2 better than Terminator 1.
Yes.
Godfather 2 can be argued against Godfather 1.
And they do. Yes, and they do.
Empire Strikes Back, to me, is the single greatest sequel ever given out.
I'm with you on that. I still think Terminator 2 might top the list, though. I think gold medal might go to best. I think best sequel, Terminator 2 is going to win most arguments.
Pretty damn good, man. Pretty damn good. As was today's show, Sammy. Thank you so very, very much. It was great catching up with you. And it had been like a week since we had done a show together. Great to see you, pal. And we'll do it again next Thursday at 11 a.m. here on The Plus and on Thinking Out Loud with Siciliano and Sam.
Love you.
Thanks to everyone for watching. Have you dropped a like or to have subscribed on your way out the door? By the way, JP, or it will be, hold on, wait, hold on. The chat's moving too fast. JP from 510 just, hey, Sharknado 2.
True. Very true.
Sharknado 2. Not bad. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Eat It Ike's. No. So here's the thing. It was Pee-wee's Big Adventure was the original. Then it was Big Top Pee-wee, and Big Top Pee-wee's not nearly as good as
Yeah, you don't have Marge, the truck driver, the stolen bike. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Tell them Large Marge sent you. And please do remember that sports don't build character. They reveal it. And like that, they're gone.